So, a fresh new week has arrived, and here on this channel, that means one thing and one thing only. Every week, I post an episode of the series we do called Your Take Not Mine, where I turn to you, the viewers, to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week, based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions and discuss them in a video. This week, the Olympics finished up in pretty exciting fashion, and the results even came with a few surprises, so we definitely have plenty to discuss. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post on either the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now, so if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Mango, and he says that Jayson Tatum deserved to be benched at the Olympics because on a team where he's not the go-to guy like Team USA, his skill set isn't built to succeed as a role player. So Team USA took home the gold medal in the Olympics this year, and while a lot of the attention is rightfully on the players that helped bring home that prestigious honor, there's also a large portion of basketball fans, mostly made up of Celtics fans, that have been complaining a lot about how they feel Jayson Tatum was quote-unquote disrespected by the coaching staff throughout the event. As the take stated, he was benched entirely in a few key elimination games, and after a whirlwind of people complaining about that, he did play sparingly in the gold medal game, so overall his role was minimal, and the problem people have with it is that he is one of the 10 best players in the NBA, and he played a pretty big role in the US winning gold at the last Olympics, averaging about 15 points per game, so there's just a bit of confusion about why he's the odd man out now. The whole situation feels pretty ridiculous though, because you don't really have to look very hard into things to see how he ends up being the odd man out. For starters, unlike that the last Olympics, he is now competing with LeBron James and Kevin Durant for minutes at his position, and they're two absolute legends of the game who will always have seniority over the rest as veteran future Hall of Famers that have garnered immense respect throughout the program for a reason. Second, Tatum's skill set, as the original take states, really isn't built to be a role player, because he's a volume scorer who needs the freedom to shoot his way out of slumps, and as a role player, you don't get that freedom. If you're not knocking down your shots in the chances you get on a stacked roster like this, then the team will utilize someone else who will, like for instance Devin Booker, who played lights out on the wing throughout the event. Tatum, meanwhile, missed all 16 of the jump shots that he took throughout the Olympics. And you heard me right, he didn't make a single jumper in the entire Olympics. The combination of the team's best players playing his position and his skill set not being what they needed as a complementary piece results in him being the odd man out. And while it's a hard pill for him and his fans to swallow, it was the right call. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Trent, and he says that LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant all proved that they're still top 5 to 6 players in the league after their play in this Olympic run. The NBA is definitely in a bit of a transitioning phase, with the old guard starting to hit the point where they are on their way out, and the younger generation is starting to take over. And we saw it in the playoffs where all 4 teams that made it to the conference finals were led by younger stars, and none of the old heads that have historically dominated the league in recent years were present there. LeBron James is viewed by many as the greatest player the game has ever seen, and Steph Curry and Kevin Durant are also 2 players with arguments to be made that they are top 15 to 10 players of all time, so their careers are already cemented in greatness, but after an NBA season like what just happened this past year, none of them really did enough to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they are still the ones holding up the throne. LeBron and the Lakers found themselves in the play-in tournament again, and then got swiftly eliminated in the first round of the playoffs by the Nuggets. Curry and the Warriors didn't even make it out of the play-in tournament, and Kevin Durant and the Suns got humiliated in the first round, getting swept by the Timberwolves. The Olympics were probably the perfect event to breathe new life into them though, because it's a time where the US gathered a lot of the best talent the country had to offer, and those 3 were the ones looked upon to lead them as the elders and incredible resumes with full of respect from their peers. Those 3 came through time and time again in big spots. Curry looked like his prime self in the semifinal and final, hitting unbelievably clutch shots in crunch time. LeBron was orchestrating things throughout like he's been doing for 20 years, and Kevin Durant was an assassin. Seemingly every shot he took, he made. Things like that can do a lot of good for your confidence coming back to the States, heading into a new season. But in the NBA, those young guys that were deferring to them will now be coming for their necks, and I unfortunately don't think all three of them are still top 5 to 6 guys anymore over the course of an 82-game season plus playoffs. In a condensed tournament format like this, it brought out the best in all of them, but in the NBA, the young talent isn't going to slow down their development, and none of those three guys are necessarily on teams built to make much noise at the moment either to help their cause. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Miko, and they say that Team USA in the 2028 Olympics will have a hard time defending their gold medal with the rise of foreign talent on the come-up. There's no denying the fact that the rest of the world is developing more and more in the basketball scene with each passing year, and there's never been more competition for medals than what we saw at this year's Olympics. Countries like Canada, Germany, and Australia are all littered with NBA talent, yet none of those three teams even salvaged a medal this year, which says a lot about how many teams are coming along quickly, ready to prove that they can be basketball powerhouses too. Team USA, meanwhile, will probably not have LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, or Drew Holiday at the next Olympics, so their three guiding forces and a key role player will need to be replaced. And as we saw at the FIBA World Cup last year, the US can't just send their B or C team, because they didn't even medal in that event by doing that. The thing is, though, that there is a middle ground that can be found, and the US still easily has the most talent depth of any country. It's just about getting those players on board with playing for Team USA. France is legitimately a scary opponent in 4 years, though, with Victor Wembanyama already being an imposing force at 20 years old, with 4 more years of experience under his belt by the time the next Olympics comes. He's easily going to be one of the best basketball players in the world. France also just produced 2 of the top 3 picks in this year's NBA draft, and while we do still have to wait and see how those players pan out, it is reasonable to give Zachary Rissache and Alexander Starr the benefit of the doubt that they'll at least be high-level role players on that France squad next Olympics. Team Canada also, they may have flopped at this year's Olympics, but they have legitimate star talent on the rise, with guys like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander leading the way, getting better every year, and they will be hungry to avenge themselves in 2028 too. I will say that it will be the first time in a while the US may not have the best player on the court in 4 years, but with players like Jayson Tatum, Devin Booker, Anthony Davis, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, and many more stars being available to replace those aging stars, the US still has the most star talent of anyone. It's just going to be a bit more of a grind. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.